Hellbender is written and directed and starring and edited and shot by the Addams Family, and it's currently streaming on Shudder. This film's about a lonely teenage girl named Izzy who lives in an isolated house in the middle of the forest with her mother. She's been told since she was young that she's very sick, and because of that cannot have contact with other people outside of the house. But after finally meeting some other people, she begins to realize that herself and her mother might have ties to witchcraft. And real fast, I just want to say to everyone, thank you so much for continuing to support my indie horror film, Shelby Oaks. The Kickstarter campaign is doing very well. We still have many days to go, and we have surpassed $400,000, and my mind is legitimately blown by this. I cannot believe the amount of support you guys have been giving me. I am so thankful. Every few hours I check, and the numbers keep rising, and as the numbers rise, the things we can do in this movie continue to get bigger and bigger, and our scope for the production gets bigger and bigger. And I am just so happy that you guys are here for this, and thank you so much. That link is in the description below if you do want to check out our Kickstarter for Shelby Oaks. We can't make this film without you guys. With each passing day, you guys are making it more possible for me to finally realize some of the dreams that have been inside my head for this movie for a few years now, and I thank you so much. So please check out the Kickstarter. It is linked below. Let's keep talking about Hellbender. As I said at the start, this movie is a family movie. It is directed by father, mother, and daughter. It's acted by father, mother, and daughter, and their other daughter is also in the film. And they shot it over the course of the pandemic. I've watched a few interviews with the family as they've talked about the way they shot the movie, and it's extremely unorthodox. They actually went around the country and filmed in various locations and sort of figured out the movie as they went along, added things, and they came out with a pretty damn good horror movie. A lot of the films that have come out of the pandemic, unless they were these gigantic productions that have enough money to cover over anything that might have been inconsistent, like say The Batman for instance, you can kind of tell. A lot of films shot during COVID cut corners, and they sort of took COVID as an excuse to cut corners because they were like, see, look what we're dealing with. Obviously, we can't do everything, right? But then when you see a movie like Hellbender, you realize that it's really about finding the right kind of story that works in those circumstances. And the horror genre is perfect for this because even before the pandemic, writers were always trying to come up with a minimal cast, an isolated setting. These are all very important things for low-budget horror. But COVID just made that exponentially more important for filmmakers who were trying to shoot at the time. And the concept of Hellbender works for a movie that is shot under those circumstances. It's essentially a mother-daughter story. Izzy is finding out things about herself that she never knew and doesn't quite understand and wants to experiment, just like any teenager might in the real world, even if it has nothing to do with witchcraft. But her mother is coming to terms with the fact that she has this extremely storied past that's very dark and very ancient in a way, and feeling like she still wants to hold on to her daughter, or at least her projection of her daughter, what she would like her daughter to be, but isn't. And she has to realize that her daughter has a lot of potential, but what's scary about that is that she could go good or she could go bad. And so you have a lot of conflict there, which is why Hellbender worked for me. The characters are strong and the movie is unique enough in its presentation that it really doesn't feel like other films. If you've seen the other Addams Family movies like The Deeper You Dig, they have an extremely unique eye, and there's something very personal about the fact that a family is making this movie. You can tell that they really care. I mean, when you watch most people's home movies, it's usually shot on VHS or with an iPhone or some shit, and it's terrible. But like, these people are fucking talented, especially young Zelda Adams. I think she's phenomenal in this movie as Izzy. She's playing a character that's been isolated her entire life. And I think most of us know just from a few years of COVID how shitty that can feel. And this character thinks that's normal. That's everyday life. She's already gotten to an age where she understands that and she's not upset about it until she realizes some things about her past that her mom never told her. And Zelda Adams really impresses in this film, especially in a scene where she has a drink with some friends that she meets. And the way that scene goes down was strangely horrifying, but also very off-putting. The movie is really good at making you feel uncomfortable through editing choices, but also just through very awkward, not embarrassing, just awkward situations that are kind of horrifying, especially if you have social anxiety. And so the film really worked for me in that way, even though when I say it worked for me, It made me feel uncomfortable and weird, which was the point, and so it worked. Also, for a low-budget horror, a lot of the effects were surprisingly great. There's a really good, like, surprise horror face. I don't know how else to describe it at some point, and the eye does some interesting things, and the effect was very convincing. There's also quite a bit of psychedelic dream sequences and or hallucinations that were also done very well, especially considering the budget. The apparent risks you think would come from a family making a movie together seem to not exist in this film. You might imagine how someone might go easier on their family member when they're supposed to act in a scene together, or if they're behind the camera and they're like, look, you really sucked in that take, we need to do another one. But you can tell there's an extreme amount of professionalism here, and I admired that so much. And I'm also jealous. I wish that I was able to make movies like this with my family. That would have been great. So if you have Shudder, check out Hellbender. I do think it's worth watching. It's a very unique horror movie shot on a budget, and there's a lot of films that were made during COVID, and this one really worked under the circumstances. Guys, like I said, I just want to again reiterate how thankful I am that people are coming over to the Kickstarter for Shelby Oaks. We have unlocked $400,000, which is just incredible. $500,000 is still an option. We have so many things we can do at that level, as well as 600. And I just want to, again, thank you so much for supporting me. Really, anything does help, even if it's just $1. It's going to go on the screen. It's going to allow me to deliver the best version of this film I can to you guys, which is my ultimate goal, to just give you guys a film that you enjoy watching. And so thank you so much for continuing to support. That link is in the description below. And as always, guys, you're the best. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.